Take stem cell research, for instance. Stem cell research is, without a doubt, one of the most promising lines of research in biology to generate medical therapies. There are scores of conditions that could well be remediated one of these days by stem cell research. And we are pulling the brakes on this research, and for religious reasons. The religious fear is that we have to kill embryos, human embryos, in order to conduct this research. We have to kill them at a 3 to 5 day stage. Perhaps that sounds terrible. What is a 3 to 5 day old human embryo? Well, it's a collection of 150 cells, not organized into a nervous system. There's no brain. It's a sphere of cells. Maybe 150 cells sounds like a lot of cells. Well, there are 100,000 cells in the brain of a fly. Flies have brains. Flies have neurons, very much like our own. If we know anything at all about the relationship between physical complexity and the possibility of having an experience and the possibility of having interests, we know that more suffering is visited upon this earth every time we swat a fly than when we kill a 3-day-old human embryo. And yet, the ethical argument never has to get made because of the deference we have for religious faith. Someone need only stand in the Oval Office or on the floor of the Senate and say, my faith teaches me that life starts at the moment of conception. There are souls in those human embryos, and one soul can't trump another. You can't sacrifice one soul to benefit another. End of argument. Well, on the one hand, we have these collections of 150 cells, and on the other, we have little girls suffering from diabetes and full-body burns. We've got men and women with Parkinson's disease. We have literally tens of millions of people suffering terrible torments, which could one day be remediated by this research. Okay, I submit to you, if you think that the interests of a virtually microscopic collection of cells, if you had 10 of these in the palm of your hand right now, you would never notice. If you think that the interests of these organisms may yet trump the interests of a little girl with full-body burns, you have had your ethical intuitions blinded by religious metaphysics. No ethical argument would get you there. No argument that talked about human suffering and its alleviation would get you there. It's not enough to say that these collections of cells are potential human beings. Given genetic engineering, every cell in our body with a nucleus is a potential human being. Every time the president scratches his nose, he's engaged in a holocaust of potential human beings. This is literally so, given the right conditions. Let's just linger for a moment. I don't want to talk too much about stem cell research, but it really demonstrates the point that we never have to have the conversation because faith trumps rational argument on these subjects. Just take for a moment the claim that there are souls in this petri dish, that every human blastocyst, a 3-day-old embryo, is ensouled. Okay, well, unfortunately, embryos at that stage can split into twins. So what happens? We have one soul becoming 2 souls. Embryos at an even later stage can fuse back into what's called a chimera, a single individual born of 2 embryos. So do we have 2 souls becoming 1 soul? This arithmetic of souls doesn't make much sense.
Now let's get to the neurology, and one group of patients we have studied is split brain patients or commissurotomy patients. These are people whose corpus callosum has been cut, and anterior commissure and massa intermedia whenever encountered. So essentially you're doing a karate chop right through the head and creating 2 human beings in one body, in one skull, 2 spheres of consciousness. Now, many experiments have been done on these people, and I asked myself a very simple question. Okay, you've created 2 people here. What about their personalities? Do they have different personalities? What about their aesthetic preferences? Does one like blondes and the other like brunettes, for example? One like chocolate and the other like vanilla? What happens? So we tried these experiments, And what we did was we had to first train the right hemisphere to communicate with us. In fact, the right hemisphere can read simple commands, simple words, simple sentences. And then you ask a question and say, point to a box, yes, no, I don't know. Because it can't talk. The right hemisphere cannot talk. But it can comprehend simple semantics, simple questions. Left hemisphere, of course, can talk. So you can present boxes, yes, no, I don't know. So we asked, for example, are you at Caltech? And the right hemisphere pointed to yes. Are you on the moon? It said no. Are you in California? It said yes. Are you asleep? It said no. Then I said, are you a woman? And the patient was male. And he pointed to yes. And then started chuckling and laughing. So at least the right hemisphere has a sense of humor. Okay. Okay, so now comes the big question. What if you ask, do you believe in God? So I said, do you believe in God? And the right hemisphere went straight to yes. Right? Asked the same question to the left hemisphere, yes, no, I don't know. It went to no. Right? So here's a human being whose right hemisphere is an atheist, and left hemisphere, on the other hand, believes in God. And this finding should have sent a tsunami through the theological community, but barely produced a ripple, because it raises all kinds of profound theological questions. If this person dies, what happens? Does one hemisphere go to heaven and the other go to hell? I don't know the answer to that.
I'm going to talk about faith as a scientist. Faith, to me, means belief in the absence of evidence. And I want to begin by illustrating the difference between faith-based belief and evidence-based belief in the form of a spoof issue of the Quarterly Review of Biology, well-known biological journal. And I've invented an issue, a special issue, on the vexed question of how did the dinosaurs come to an end? Did an asteroid kill the dinosaurs? And I've got a list of imaginary papers that might be submitted to the Quarterly Review on this question, did an astronaut kill the dinosaurs? First paper, iridium layer at KT boundary and potassium-argon dated crater in Yucatan indicate that an asteroid killed the dinosaurs. Perfectly sensible, respectable scientific paper. The President of the Royal Society has been vouchsafed a strong inner conviction that an asteroid killed the dinosaurs. It has been privately revealed to Professor Huxtane that an asteroid killed the dinosaurs. Professor Haldley was brought up to have total and unquestioning faith that an asteroid killed the dinosaurs. Professor Hawkins has promulgated an official dogma binding on all loyal Hawkinsians that an asteroid killed the dinosaurs. Well, I hope it's clear that paper number 1 is the one that I approve of, and I hope that nobody will approve of papers 2, 3, 4, or 5. They do seem to me to illustrate precisely the religious approach to what's true about the world. Faith can sometimes be caught like a virus from a charismatic preacher or a persuasive book, but more usually, faith is hereditary. Isn't it a remarkable coincidence? Almost everybody has the same religion as their parents, and it always just happens to be the right religion. Religions tend to run in families. If we'd been brought up in ancient Greece, we'd all be worshipping Zeus and Apollo. If we'd been born Vikings, we'd all be worshipping Wotan and Thor. How does it come about? Through childhood indoctrination.